Here's a song that will get your heart rate up. Every time I sing the word up, reach for the stars. Every time I sing the word down, touch the ground. The rest of the time, march with your knees high. Those magnificent men in their flying machines, they go up to the up, up, they go down to the down, down. They enchant all the ladies and see all the scenes with their up to the up, up, and their down to the down, down. Up and down, flying around, looping the loop and defying the ground. Up and down, they're frightfully keen, those magnificent men in their flying machines. They can fly upside down with their feet in the air. They don't think of danger, they really don't care. Newton would think he had made a mistake to see those young men and the chances they take. Those magnificent men in their flying machines, they go up to the up, up, they go down to the down, down. They enchant all the ladies and see all the scenes with their up to the up, up, and their down to the down, down. Up, down.
Welcome to the Spirit of Mackenzie channel. The Spirit of Mackenzie being this: a amateur-built, kit-based Searey model seaplane, amphibious, that I've been working on for nigh on 9 years at this point. And I think I'm getting close to completion. A couple of years ago, when I got back into the build again big time, I think I said I was about 96% done. Right now I am currently still at 96%. Let me explain. In the plane building community, there's an adage that if you're 90% done, you've got 90% left to do. Well, when I started building this plane, the best information I could get from people who had built the plane and from the factory where the kit came from was that it would take someone like myself with a modicum of mechanical, electrical aptitude, enough motivation, some tools, some space, and some time. It'd take about maybe 1,000 hours to complete the build. Well, according to my website build log, KitLog Pro, I put in just over 2,000 hours as of today. So already I'm twice the number of hours into this project that best advice said I would consume. Now, admittedly, a lot of that is my fault. The inefficiency that I applied to the job. When I started the job, I was single. I was living in a small town, didn't have much else to do, was highly motivated. I had a good hangar, indoor hangar. So I had a clear run at it. So for 2 years, I got a lot of the build done. But then unfortunately, or actually fortunately, because I enjoyed it, I had to go overseas to work. I worked in South America, then I worked in Europe, and then with a new wife, a bigger family. I was back in Canada, bought a home, relocated the plane from Mackenzie, where it started, to Powell River, my hometown, where I now live, and work remotely. And a lot of inefficiencies in there. But now is my opportunity. Beginning of 2024, right now, I see I can put at least a reasonable amount of time into the build, get this done, before I suffer the ignominy of having to tell people I'm into double digits in the years of work that I put into this plane. So this is like year number 9. This is going to be the last year building. After this, it's going to be enjoying the flying. Okay, so what am I going to do different now to get this build finished? Well, I am a project manager by profession. Up until now, I haven't wanted to. I haven't applied project management techniques or tools to get the job done because this was a hobby. But now, to get it done, I'm going to pull out all the tricks I can to be able to focus, be disciplined, and to monitor my progress. That'll help me get the job done this year. Sooner than this year. Halfway through this year. I want to be flying this summer. Okay, so in project management, the cornerstones of running a project well are knowing your scope, knowing your schedule, and knowing your costs. If you don't know the numbers, you can't manage the job. That's what they taught us in business school, and that's what all project managers know. So, cost. First of all, I don't have to worry about the, well, I should have worried about the cost 10 years ago, but the cost now, sunk cost, all my investment is in the plane. I have nothing left to buy, nothing left to purchase. Knock on wood somewhere. So don't have to worry about that leg of the project management triad. Cost, don't have to worry about it. What you got left is scope. Scope is a list of all the tasks that have to get done. Scope is the amount of the work. Schedule is obviously, over time, how you're going to get the tasks done. So, for scope of work, what I've done is I've made a list of all the tasks, reasonable chunks of work that I know I have to do to get this job done. I've got about 30 tasks listed here on my list. Each of them, I've estimated the amount of time, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours. These are reasonable bite-sized chunks of work that I've assigned these durations to these tasks. So that's the scope of work. And I've even put in a miscellaneous task of some like 16 hours where I don't know what it is, but you know something's going to come up and I got to allocate some time for that to be realistic. Okay, then the schedule. So assigning a duration to each tasks, and then you put the tasks sort of head to toe based on which ones have to be done first, if that's the case, and then matching that to a reasonable work week. Now, a reasonable work week for me, recognizing that I work full-time, like 40 hours a week, in remote office work or traveling to project sites across Canada, I think reasonably I can, over the next 6 months, I can put in 4 hours a week. Especially now during the winter months when it's dark so much of the day and the weather is bad so much of the week. 4 hours a week is I think is reasonable. It's conservative, at least for the next 3 months. Maybe when I get into spring and into early summer, more hours per week will be appropriate, but I'll adjust my schedule then. So what I did is I used a project management software, and I used Microsoft Project. If you're doing this sort of thing, you can use an Excel spreadsheet, or you can find some other maybe simple, cheap or free software on the internet, or you can just pen and paper. I think it's important to make up a schedule, a list of tasks and durations by each task. Interconnect the tasks, figure out how long it's going to take you to get the job done. Manager, multi-order schedule. You got to have a remediation plan. You got to do something to get back on schedule. That's the key to project management. Don't let the work drive you. You have to drive the work. And if the work is slipping, you've got to find a way to put in more hours per week, or cut the task out, or bring in some help, whatever it takes to get back on schedule. So there, that's my project management lecture to myself. Take it for what it's worth. Okay, so this is my tool I'm going to use. It's a project management task list and schedule. So let me do a quick rundown of these 30 or so tasks I see that have to be done before the final inspection of the plane can be done by the representative from Transport Canada. First task is to install the ELT in the baggage compartment of the plane. After that, the boards which form the floor of the baggage compartment can be fitted around the ELT supports and installed. And then moving out to this right wing sponsoon, you can see the aluminum support is bent. I got to take the sponsoon off, bend that aluminum support back into shape. Must have got damaged when I dropped the wing one of those times. Okay, then I got to install a couple of rear view mirrors so that the pilot and a co-pilot can look out towards the wing supports or the sponsoon on either side and see what the tail wheel is doing and anything else at the aft end of the plane. Then I've got to hook up the pitot tubing to the airspeed indicator, and then I got to check out the pitot and AOI probe and tubing system to make sure it works. And then unfortunately I've got a bit of a fit problem with the ends of the ailerons. It's too tight on both sides of the plane. I got to find a way of opening up that gap so that I don't have an interference in there. That could be interesting. Okay, then back into the cockpit again. Right now you can see there's a left and a right green light on, indicating that the landing gear is set up for landing on land, but that right one, the co-pilot one, doesn't always come on. So I got to adjust that limit switch back there to make sure it works 100% of the time. Now I know that the radio powers up, but I have not been able to make it actually work. It receives, but it doesn't transmit, as best I can tell. So I got to get the radio operational. Then the transponder has to be placed in this slot, and it has to be made operational. I also know it powers up, but I got to figure out how it works and is it operational. Then I've got to make the ELT, which is installed back there, operational. There's its little test switch. So I got to make sure the ELT is operational and all that involves. Then at that point I know the electrics is good. All the electrics being under this part of the bow deck, so I can rivet down the bow deck, followed by riveting down the windshield. Then I can install the sliding canopies, and the sliding canopies which come back here require a stiffener rib and a seal to be placed on them as part of that installation. Then I can install the two canopy windows. While they're temporarily installed, I got to rivet them all in. Then I'm gonna work with the EFIS to calibrate the fuel tank. That's the fuel tank back there. You can actually see a level in the fuel tank. I'm going to mark on that tank the levels, but on the EFIS system there's a fuel gauge which right now is not calibrated, so I got to calibrate that. Okay, then on top of the wings from side to side, on the upper leading edge, I have to install these little plastic wind vortex breakers. They're just little plastic tabs that glue into place. Not a big job, but important. Then inside, I want to clean up the control panel. All these little temporary labels have to be replaced with new good labels, permanent labels that are clear and nice. Various decals to be installed in the plane. There's a decal to be installed up here to indicate that the emergency fuel shutoff is right there. There's a decal to be put with the filler port for the fuel to show what type of fuel is acceptable. And there's a few other decals, such as there's a very important decal to be put on the plane, somewhere very prominent, so that anybody getting in the plane knows that this is an experimental plane. Then I have to take the plane out into a clear area, and this magnetic compass has to be boxed. By that I mean the plane has to be pointed in the different directions of the compass, and any deviation, make sure I get that right, deviation in the compass due to magnetic fields around the compass, which distort the reading, have to be noted on a compass card, and the card mounted somewhere near the compass. Then a nameplate, which is supplied to me by Transport Canada, has to be engraved and installed somewhere on the pylon or back there on the in the empennage on the fuselage. Now I've allocated some miscellaneous task time for things that will come up. And then I've got nice seat cushions to install. I've got a safety kit bag to put in there, a tool bag to put in there. I've got paddles. I got a fire extinguisher. These are all things that are sort of permanent for the plane and therefore need to be installed before we do the weight and balance. After that, I got to do a fuel flow test, which means I disconnect the hose at the fuel pump and run the electric fuel pump and see how many quarts or liters or gallons per minute or second the system can deliver. And I have to prepare a report for the Transport Canada inspector before he comes. After that, we have to do a weight and balance, and that means getting a proper scale and putting a scale under each of the 3 wheels and measuring the weight at that point, and then filling out and doing a weight and balance calculation. And then at that point I have all the reports I need that I can send to the Transport Canada inspector and invite him to come. And while I'm waiting for him to come, I got to do some engine tests, taxi and brake tests, system checks to make sure all is in good order. So those are all my tasks. There's about 30 of them there, and I estimate they're going to take about 80 hours. So between now and the middle of June, I need to get this done.
That's all, folks.